I just wanted to share with you some of my morning devotions today. I was in Acts chapter 5 reading about the story of Ananias and Saphira. And it occurred to me in the modern church today, church discipline is seldom practiced. And I think it's because we feel like if we're serious about church discipline, it's going to drive unbelievers away from the church and we're not going to be effective at reaching the lost. Well, let's take a look at the story of Ananias and Saphira. Here, Ananias and Saphira had concocted together a lie. They had sold a piece of property for a certain amount of money, and then they told the church that they had given all of that money to the ministry of the church, whereas in fact they kept part of it back. Now, Peter says the problem was not that you didn't give all of it to the church. You were free once you sold that property to keep all of it, to keep part of it, or to keep none of it. That was your choice. But it was not right for you to lie about how much you had given, because hypocrisy and error and deceit were starting to creep into the church because of them. And what happened as a result? God himself exercises church discipline swiftly and severely. Basically, he kills both of them. Both of them fall down dead when Peter confronts them about their sin. And what's the result when that takes place? Is it a negative result towards the lost, or is it a positive result? Well, verse 11 says, great fear came over the whole church and over all who heard of these things. Did that divine discipline hurt the witness of the church? Look at verse 13. On the one hand, it says, those that were not serious about following Jesus did not even dare to associate with them. But in verse 14, it says, all the more believers in the Lord. Multitudes of men and women were constantly added to their number. So the uncommitted and the insincere kept themselves away from the church, whereas true believers and those that were serious about following Jesus flocked to the church in great numbers. So my takeaway, the church should never be afraid to insist on discipline in its members. In other words, we should not allow people who profess the name of Christ to go on living a life of sin, to practice a life of sin without stepping in and seeking to bring discipline into their lives. That is actually going to help the witness of the church and to make the church more attractive to lost people.